This is now or never for CJ Stroud, and the Houston Texans have already told you exactly what they think of him. They picked up his fifth-year option back in April, which covers the 2027 season and not one day beyond it. That is not a commitment. That is a receipt. Every quarterback in this league who reaches January year after year is earning north of $50 million per season, and Houston has not put that conversation on the table. The reason is not complicated. Stroud has led this team to 3 postseasons, and all 3 of them ended in the divisional round. Here's the number that frames the entire year. Houston finished 12-5 and allowed the fewest total yards per game in the NFL at 277.2, along with the second fewest points at 17.4 per game, according to ESPN. Then, Stroud threw 4 interceptions in the divisional round at New England, and the Texans lost 28-16. General manager Nick Caserio did not soften it afterward. He said, "In the end, we didn't execute well enough," and pointed directly at the 5 turnovers Houston committed in that single game. So let me lay out what this video actually covers. I want to walk through the 3 things that decide whether Stroud gets paid this winter or gets replaced in 2028. The first is a single protection number from last season that quietly kills the excuse most people keep making for him. The second is a receiver decision Houston spent all summer avoiding, and the window on it closed 2 days ago. The third is the exact dollar figure this front office will not go past, and why that figure explains every move Nick Caserio made since March. Let us start with what the record hides. But before we jump into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Texans and all the NFL content. Can we get 500 likes on this video? Start with the standings, because the 12-5 record tells you less than you think. Houston did not win the AFC South. Jacksonville did at 13-4, which pushed the Texans down to the 5 seed and onto the road for the entire postseason. Houston closed the regular season on 10 straight wins, which sounds like a team peaking at the right moment. It was really a defense peaking at the right moment while the offense held on. That defense was the best statistical unit in football. Houston allowed 295 total points across 17 games, finishing 3 points behind Seattle for the league lead in scoring defense and led the NFL outright in yards allowed. The Texans generated 29 takeaways and finished at plus 17 in turnover differential. Will Anderson Jr. and Derek Stingley Jr. both earned first-team All-Pro honors. Danielle Hunter made second team, and 5 defenders reached the Pro Bowl once you add Azeez Al-Shaair, Kamari Lassiter, and Kalen Bullock. That is not a good defense. That is a defense that can win a Super Bowl. The offense was a different sport. Houston averaged 9 yards per carry, the 4th lowest mark in the league. ESPN charted the line at a 55.5% pass block win rate, which ranked 30th, and a 68.4% run block win rate, which ranked dead last at 32nd. Stroud threw for 3,041 yards with 19 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, and those yardage and touchdown figures are both career lows across his 3 seasons. A defense that historic paired with an offense that ordinary is how you get 12 wins and no conference championship game. Now let me walk you through how the season actually unfolded, because the shape of it matters. Houston opened 0-3, including a 17-10 loss at Jacksonville in Week 3, where the line surrendered 16 pressures at a 37.2% rate per Pro Football Focus. Nobody was talking about a 12-win season in late September. Then, Stroud got the offense upright, and in Week 9 against Denver, he took a hit while sliding, hit his head on the turf, and entered concussion protocol. What happened next is the part Houston has never publicly reckoned with. Davis Mills made 3 starts, and Houston won all 3 of them. He erased a 19-point second-half deficit against Jacksonville in a 36-29 win, capping it with a 14-yard touchdown run with 31 seconds left. He beat Tennessee. He beat Buffalo. Across 6 appearances, he completed 91 of 159 attempts for 915 yards with 5 touchdowns and 1 interception. He was not better than Stroud. He simply did not lose the game. And this roster is built so that not losing the game is enough. Stroud returned in Week 13 at Indianapolis and Houston kept winning, closing with a 38-30 victory over the Colts in Week 18. Then came the postseason. Houston went to Pittsburgh and won 30-6, the first road playoff win in franchise history, though Stroud himself went 21 of 32 for 250 yards with 1 touchdown. 1 interception and 2 lost fumbles. The defense won that game. 1 week later at Gillette Stadium, in snow, against a Patriots team that would reach Super Bowl LX, Stroud threw 4 interceptions. Houston committed 7 turnovers across those 2 playoff games. Let us talk about what walked out the door, because Houston cleaned house on offense. Joe Mixon was released in March after missing the entire 2025 season with a foot injury, a full year lost to a situation the team never fully explained. Nick Chubb hit free agency after producing 506 rushing yards on a knee that never came back to what it was in Cleveland. Those 2 departures wiped out most of the veteran experience in the backfield in a single week. The offensive line churn continued for a 3rd straight offseason. Titus Howard was traded to Cleveland. That follows the 2025 decision to ship Laramie Tunsil to Washington, which cost Houston its best lineman and started this entire rebuild of the front. I will be fair here, because the criticism of that Tunsil trade has been loud, and it deserves a caveat. Houston got back a package that included the 2026 second and 4th round picks it used this spring, so the return was not nothing. On defense, Houston let interior lineman Tim Settle leave for Washington and moved on from linebacker Damone Clark. Neither loss is fatal for a unit this deep, but Settle in particular was a rotational run stopper on a front that leaned on rotation. And of course, Stephon Diggs, who tore an ankle during his 1 Houston season in 2024, has now played for New England and signed elsewhere entirely. Houston has spent 2 full off seasons trying to replace what he was supposed to be, and I will come back to that in a moment. Now here's the number I promised you, and it changes the entire argument about CJ Stroud. In 2024, ESPN and Next Gen Stats charted Stroud as being sacked 52 times, the 2nd most in the NFL, while pressured on 38.6% of his dropbacks. Last season, that figure dropped to 23 sacks, which tied for 23rd in the league. There were 4 games where he was not sacked a single time. The protection got fixed. The quarterback play did not follow it up, and that is the honest read. Houston then poured more resources into that same line anyway. Wyatt Teller signed in March to play guard, arriving from Cleveland with a mean streak this staff clearly values. Braden Smith came over from Indianapolis on a 2-year deal worth $25 million with $13.5 million fully guaranteed, after starting 13 games at right tackle for the Colts. ESPN's Matt Bowen ranked Smith the 20th most impactful acquisition of the entire offseason. Second-year left tackle Ariante Ursery allowed just 1 sack from Week 12 onward as a rookie, so Houston finally has a young anchor. The backfield got the biggest name. Houston traded with Detroit on March 11th for David Montgomery, a downhill runner who gives this offense the short yardage answer it has never had. He pairs with Woody Marks, who as a rookie produced 703 rushing yards and 915 total yards from scrimmage. On defense, the money kept flowing. Danielle Hunter got $40.1 million on a 1-year extension after leading Houston with 15 sacks. Will Anderson Jr. signed for 3 years and $150 million after 12 sacks and 93 pressures. Azeez Al-Shaair got 3 years and $54 million, and Henry To'oTo'o just added 2 years and $16 million. Then Houston brought Jadeveon Clowney home at 33 years old, and he explained it plainly. He said it was about chasing my legacy and chasing a Super Bowl. The draft told you exactly what this front office believes the problem is. Houston traded up 2 spots to number 26 overall and took Georgia Tech guard Keelan Rutledge, a first-team All-American who has been rotating at center through training camp. He arrived with a mission statement about setting the tone up front, and Nick Caserio said the scouting staff was unanimous on him. That is 3 consecutive off-seasons where Houston spent premium resources on the offensive line. Then they traded up again for Caden McDonald at number 36 overall, a 326-pound Ohio State defensive tackle who was a unanimous All-American and the Big Ten Defensive Lineman of the Year. He signed for 4 years and $12.9 million. At number 59, they took Michigan tight end Marlon Klein, the highest drafted German player since 2013, which was a reach on most public boards and is a legitimate risk. The rest of the class was guard Fabeki Nwaiwu from Oklahoma, linebacker Wade Woodaz from Clemson, safety Kamari Ramsey from USC, receiver Lewis Bond from Boston College, and linebacker Aiden Fisher from Indiana. Woodaz matters more than a fourth-round pick usually would, because E.J. Speed underwent surgery this offseason and will miss the entire 2026 season. Houston also added Reed Blankenship from Philadelphia on a 3-year deal worth $24.75 million, and re-signed Sheldon Rankins and Ed Ingram. Azeez Al-Shaair summed up why players keep re-upping here when he took his own extension. He said, "This place is special. The people are special." Here is where I want to slow down, because this is the receiver question Houston keeps getting asked, and the answer changed this week. On August 5th, Stephon Diggs signed with Washington on a 1-year deal worth up to $12 million. He was the reunion everybody in Houston wanted, and he is gone. That leaves Keenan Allen as the last proven veteran on the board, and Allen is entering his age 34 season after catching 81 passes for 777 yards on 122 targets with the Chargers. I understand the appeal. I also think Houston should pass. Nico Collins is a genuine number one, and he caught 71 of 120 targets for 1,117 yards and 6 touchdowns in 15 games, despite a catch rate that fell to 59%, largely because so many throws were simply uncatchable. He committed exactly 1 drop all season. Houston restructured his deal to add $9 million in cash this year and $8 million next year, which tells you where he sits in the building. Behind him, Jaden Higgins posted 525 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns as a rookie, with 4 of those scores coming in the red zone. Adding Allen cost snaps that Higgins, Jalen Noel, and Tank Dell need. Dell has now been cleared off the physically unable to perform list after missing all of 2025 with a torn ankle, Mickle and LCL, plus a dislocated knee, and he owns 98 career catches for 1,376 yards and 10 touchdowns in his 2 healthy seasons. Let me be honest about the caveat here, because it cuts both ways. Dell has been limited to side work early in camp, and if he is not right by September, this receiver room gets thin behind Collins and Dalton Schultz in a hurry. So let me give you the dollar figure I promised, because everything else in this offseason bends around it. Houston will not hand CJ Stroud a deal at $50 million per season on the body of work he currently has. The 5th-year option covers 2027 and nothing else, which means the front office bought itself 2 seasons of evaluation without committing $1 of long-term guarantee. That is a deliberate choice by Nick Caserio, and it is the correct one until the postseason evidence changes. Run the arithmetic on that postseason evidence yourself. Stroud threw 8 interceptions across 14 regular season games, which works out to roughly 0.6 per game. He threw 4 in a single afternoon in Foxborough, close to 7 times his own rate, in the one game that would have sent this franchise to its first AFC championship in 25 seasons. Before that game, he told reporters, "We've been in this position before." Houston had been. Houston lost anyway, and the losses have now come 3 years running with 3 different supporting casts. The path forward is not complicated, and it does not require the 2023 version of him. This roster needs a quarterback who protects the football, hits the throws that are there, and lets Montgomery and that defense control the game script. That is what Davis Mills did for 3 weeks in November, and Houston won all 3. The ceiling here is a Super Bowl, because a defense allowing 17.4 points per game will keep you in every game you play. The floor is another divisional round exit and a short-term contract offer in February. Houston opens against Buffalo on September 13th, and Stroud has 17 games to decide which one it is.